Hi everybody, this is Sarah, and today Kelsey is sharing bravely into 2021. So hi Kelsey, nice to see you.
Hi, Sarah. So nice to see you as well. I'm really excited about this.
So tell us a bit about yourself. Give us a bit of background as to where you've come from, what you do, and where you're living right now.
Yeah, awesome. Hi everyone. My name is Kelsey. Now I work in operations, business operations, and people operations for a startup. I'm originally from Ohio in the United States, Cleveland. So I'm a LeBron James fan. And then I actually ended up moving to Miami. So I'm currently based in Miami, Florida. And yeah, I'm also an author. I just finished writing and publishing a book during the middle of a pandemic. It's called Trash to Treasure. It's all about companies that are turning trash into their products and the mindsets that they embrace and how we can embrace this regenerative mindset as well.
Very cool. So just before we get into the book and what you've been doing in the last year, all the crazy stuff you've been up to, how would you describe yourself in a way the listeners might get to know a little bit about you and what's important to you?
Ooh, I love this question. So I'm a farm girl. I grew up on a small farm with cows and a bunch of other animals, cows, goats, chickens, you name it, I had it. And then I ended up going and working in the corporate world for a while before leaving and joining to work with startups. So now I work in a very entrepreneurial community and have worked with several different startups. It's been incredible, very different pace, but also both have been amazing and incredible for different reasons. So working in the corporate world, I was able to move around a lot, work as an expat, do a lot of really unique things. And then in startups, I've been able to work both in Cleveland and Miami, which are two places that are very near and dear to my heart.
Cool. Now, when you look at what you've done in the last 12 months, just to explain to us a little as to where you were 12 months ago and what you've actually managed to create for yourself in a global pandemic.
Yeah. So a year ago, I was unemployed, had just signed a 12-month lease. So I still had 11 months of this lease to pay, had health insurance to pay, had just agreed that I would write a book within a year, had said I was going to do so. So I was working on a book, trying to find a job in the middle of a pandemic. It was a unique time. And I think I really was, a year ago, I was very uncertain as to how things were going to work out. Was I going to be able to keep this my lease for my apartment? Did it make sense to do so? I had a car lease. I had a bunch of kind of financial things I needed to think about. Also needed to decide, okay, is this time for me to really start my own company? Does it make sense for me to do contracts with other companies? What makes the most sense for me in that exact moment? I got very fortunate that I did get a contract part-time with a startup remotely by about the end of March, beginning of April. And so then I was working with them part-time and remotely, which kind of helped cover some of the bills while I was writing the vast majority of the book and doing the first draft of the book. And then I joined with them full-time last summer, which kind of gave me more space to both figure out writing the book and manage financially. So it kind of ended up allowing me the space to do both things, but I had no idea that was going to happen. It was just very serendipitous.
Okay, so in the time of global pandemic, you got yourself a job, which you managed to create into what you wanted it to in terms of part-time to start with and then moving into full-time. At the same time as taking on your first ever book and trying to figure out the processes behind writing a book and putting something together that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And trying a lot of, because I was writing a nonfiction book, a lot of what you're doing is a lot of interviews. So also having to readapt interviews to be virtual and really building on that. So had to very quickly embrace a fully virtual life, but not, kind of just establish that on my own.
Okay. So which of your strengths did you need to use to be able to go and create this at a time when you couldn't go and sit face to face with people?
Yeah. So I'm extremely adaptable, and that's always been something that I've really leaned into. I was always happy, even in previous jobs. It was always like, yeah, sure, like send me wherever, I'll go do whatever. We'll figure it out. And so kind of having that optimism to figure it out and trust myself to just do really helped to kind of lean in over the past year and trust that things would work out, even when I had no idea how they would work out. So I'm now comfortable in my job that has taken, a year to establish. And, it's been a very kind of roller coaster of a pandemic, also trying to just adapt to living within a small flat with a roommate and like do a job and like still figure everything else out in the middle of a pandemic was very unique. And not, being very limited in what you can do and who you can see was definitely also very stressful because I am quite extroverted. And so that took a lot to kind of figure out like what works best for me, but we adapted and I'm still here.
So what is important to you as you were kind of on both sides, whether you were writing your book, but also in your working environment? What are the things that, are really key to you to be available?
Ooh. I think what I've learned from this is to do my best is actually not to work 24/7. I think I really did, Sarah's smiling, but I think I really had worked while in the middle of writing a lot, editing a book and doing my full-time job. I hadn't done a great job of kind of creating boundaries between work, book work, and life. And so now I've been much better at like, even though, yes, I'm currently, like working from home, I still am getting much better at like creating those boundaries to take breaks, because when I do take breaks, I am much more productive. And I used to do a lot of the writing. I would get up at like 5 a.m. and write before I would start working, which worked. It definitely did work. I have not pushed myself to continue that habit because I just can't, like, I cannot physically do it anymore. And so it's kind of been realizing like, okay, that is okay. It worked very short. It was a short-term solution, but it's not necessarily healthy long-term. And so I don't, expect that of myself anymore.
Right. So you're creating boundaries as to, okay, I can do this for a short amount of time, but actually when it comes into sustainability and going from like the, sprint into the marathon, I actually need to look after myself better. So what is it that nurtures you when you're going through and doing all these different things? What is it that nurtures you? What do you do to relax?
So I take a lot of walks. I'm lucky that I live in Florida. It's nice. So I do take a ton of walks, and I used to kind of, at one point I like felt bad for taking walks because I was like, oh, like this isn't productive time, but it's actually what I think the best. So I usually come back fresher, and like when I do take a walk, I come back fresher. It's also kind of how I like process things well. So I now just kind of I got up and went for a walk this morning. I'll probably go for one later this afternoon. And I used to always also try to like put my headphones on and like listen to a book, or like be like, oh, I should call people and like now, and like try to like make it into a productive time. And then I realized like it actually is like great as my meditative time. I truly enjoy swimming as well. And I think that's the thing I realized was like, I enjoy swimming because I can't literally be like accessed by technology. So whereas I would expect myself to like be able to access technology while I was like walking. So now I'm just trying to get better at like allowing myself to do kind of the same thing of like using it as like my meditative time.
I love the fact that you're linking these things as you're realizing them. You're trying to find ways to actually integrate them in different places. That's so cool. So, what's one piece of advice you wish you'd known 12 months ago? What would have made your life back then easier as you were sat there thinking, oh my goodness, what have I got myself into?
Oh, this is a great question. I think just breathe. It's going to work out better than you expected it to. Because I think, I mean, a year ago, I was job searching, so I would have accepted a lot of jobs. I got very lucky that I got a job that I absolutely love. And you know, that I'm also still able to build something on the side. But I think it's also that, and like bring other people with you, and it's okay to ask for help. And you know, in the sense of, I can also hire people to help me do stuff that I'm not super skilled at, and it's often more effective to do that.
Okay, cool.
So
where is the area where you still struggle? Where's the area you still can't laugh at yourself?
I definitely still struggle with this idea that like I should be up and still like productive. Like this morning I was like, oh, I'm gonna get up at like 5:30 and like get some other things done. Like it'll be great. No. And so I had to like remind, like at like 6:30, I was like, I should probably get up now. And I think I'm just reminding myself like that is normal. I don't have to be up at 5 every day. And things will always still get done. So it's still a challenge to remind myself that I don't have to do everything all the time. Like don't have to be working all the time and getting up and getting things done. But it's also been a fun time, because I know I'm very motivated to get things done, and I just have to trust myself. Like it does all work out. I don't have as many hard deadlines either. When you're publishing a book, there's a lot of very strict kind of timelines. When you're done publishing and you're like marketing and stuff, there's not as many. Like the timelines are now more on me. So definitely there's more I want to do, but I'm kind of having to be willing to be flexible about like what those timelines look like. Also for like the rest of my life. You want to be kinder
to yourself, and you want to be able to actually say that, look what I've achieved already.
It's going to be okay. And like, that is absolutely it. It's really kind of just still being like, and it's going to be fine. Still going to be fine.
So tell us a bit about what's important to you. The job that you're doing is very much people focused, equality focused. The book that you've written is about using waste as a resource and in terms of being able to live a more sustainable life. So what is it that's important for you about both of these areas? What's the key?
Yeah, I mean, I truly believe that everything has value, whether it is our trash, whether it is other humans on our planet, everything in my, like, and our planet itself, everything really has value to me. So the thing that I value both about like my work and my startup is the fact that both of those things really embrace that philosophy. So at work, I work at a fintech. We're primarily helping people who are not necessarily seen as, you know, great customers in the traditional banking system. And so for me, like, it's really helpful to see that like they are really valuable as humans, and like we want to support them. And the same thing with the book is really kind of remembering that our trash isn't just trash. It truly does have value in terms of thinking, how can we reuse it? How can we use it better? So yeah, so for me, it's really kind of about this idea of value and creating the mindset where we can see that everything has value, because when we start to see that, it's a lot easier to kind of find connections. Even, you know, we've met and like I have built a connection virtually. And so it's much easier to now embrace a lot of different ways of connecting with other humans, as well, because I've kind of started to connect everything else.
So just talking a little as to what was your trigger to say, right, I'm going to write a book about trash to treasure. What was this kind of like thought process?
Ironically, it sounds like it was like this brilliant, I just had this like light bulb moment. I didn't. So how did this happen? I had been working in some other contract jobs in end of 2019. So I'd had a lot of time on my hands, which meant I had gone to the library and checked out a lot of books, was reading a lot, and really consuming a lot. Had set it as a goal that within the next 10 years, I wanted to write a book. I had like 10 goals in 10 years. One of them was writing a book. And then somehow it came up of like, it just like serendipitously came up where there was this program that was like, hey, like we'll help you write a book. So I was like, all right, I guess this is the time. So I signed up to start writing a book, and I wanted it to be sustainability focused. So that was something I've always been very interested in. Had no idea what that meant. Like for the context of a book, what was I going to do? What was I going to write about? So then it ended up being even more kind of, in addition to the consumption I'd already been doing of a lot of books that had just like really interested me. I then was starting to get much more focused on like listening to TED Talks, podcasts, kind of seeing what was out there, and then kind of allowing it to spark kind of like what's missing, kind of always like starting to think like what's missing, what are we not seeing? What do I think, like what frustrates me? Like what do I think could be explained better? Because I think there's a lot of like really amazing niche stuff in sustainability, but it's kind of how do we communicate it more broadly? And so for me, like that was where Trash to Treasure was kind of, I wanted to bridge that sort of gap of like, how would I communicate sustainability to like my friends and family that aren't necessarily like experts in this topic? And Trash to Treasure was born. So,
That's
and
amazing.
it really does like, yeah.
Well,
it really kind of evolved.
Thinking about it, Kelsey, is actually, you didn't know what to write about, but you knew you wanted to write a book. And you basically brought the things you're passionate about and went and did some research as to actually what's missing in this area. Mm-hmm. So you created something in a fairly short space of time from nothing. You weren't an author, you hadn't done training on how to write a book, and yet you set yourself this goal and found a way to do it.
Yep.
It's pretty amazing. Okay.
That's exactly what I did. And I do think that that's what makes it fun and exciting, is to just,
right. You do
sometimes
like
you have to just go and do it. I do. Sometimes you just have to go and do it.
Okay, so what's your one wish? So we'll stay on the sustainability topic. What's your one wish for the planet this year?
Ooh, for 2021 for the planet. I think it's for us to really kind of embrace the idea that our previous normal wasn't that great for the planet. And so it's kind of starting to figure out new ways that we can think very differently and operate differently for our planet. So I think it's kind of, I know we're very excited to get back to normal, but I also think we need to kind of, it's really kind of shown where we have major challenges, whether it's supply chain challenges, technology challenges, lots of different challenges. I think it's really shown kind of where we can do a lot of things that are like way better for the planet in terms of how we're operating.
Right. So what is your one change that you're making to live more sustainably yourself this year?
For me, I think it's really been, and still, I mean, this has been kind of a theme in my life, but it's really continuing to look for just like not easy changes, but always doing my homework and researching like anything that is quote unquote trash. Like, do I need it or is going to create trash? Do I need this product? Can I make it differently? Can I reuse it? That's something that I still am continuing to grow in. It was something I've always embraced, but it's definitely still a journey. Like, I'm not zero waste. So it's always kind of a continuous process to think about, like, what can I remove? What do I not need? All that kind of stuff. Very apparent as I was moving as well, because I was like, wait, why do I have all of this kind of stuff? And then thinking about, I read this other really good book called Sustainable Minimalism. And it's really about like this idea of decluttering, but then also like taking responsibility for the clutter that you are decluttering and like figuring out how to responsibly like dispose of it or, give it away, that type of thing. And I think that that's something that it does take a lot, especially in Miami in particular. It takes quite a bit of planning because you have to think about like if there's something that's like chemicals or something, you have to obviously take it to like the right place, all that kind of stuff. So it takes like an additional, like there's further steps.
So there's taking responsibility for the waste you're kind of creating and what you can create from it, but also disposing of stuff responsibly in a way. And I can hear this kind of element of what's in your book as well, as to, actually looking for the opportunity in it all and seeing what you can see and create from it. So very cool.
Exactly. Right. And continuing to share that with my friends. So that's been fun too.
So what's your one wish for yourself for this year, Kelsey? You're very good at wishing and creating stuff for other people, but what's your wish for yourself?
I think it's to keep growing, professionally and personally, and really leaning into my values, but also to really create space to just like relax and not work all the time. So that's been a big theme, I think, for like the first couple of months. I did take a vacation last week, so that was lovely. And so it's really kind of not being on all the time.
Cool. Giving yourself permission to switch off. Very nice. So if you were going to share like one motivational saying or maybe a podcast or something or book maybe that might help other people who are potentially thinking, oh, wow, I'd like to go write a book or I'd like to get involved in a startup, what would it be?
Ooh. This is tough. This is tough. I think I personally am a big fan of a lot of Brene Brown's work. I think she's done a really good job explaining shame and vulnerability in a way that it's valuable. So either if, like for me, while I was unemployed and trying to figure it all out, I would listen to Rising Strong, which is one of her books, which is really helpful in terms of thinking about how to be resilient and continue to grow and just figure it out. Or Daring Greatly, which is also about kind of continuing to, when you are kind of in more of a leadership position or, just in not necessarily leadership, but just in your own, a little bit more comfortable kind of a position, how you can continue to kind of push forward and figure things out and still lead. And I think the thing that she really said that was also important to remind myself while writing a book, because you tend to be like, I also tend to like want to self-edit while I'm writing a book, is this idea that like, it doesn't matter what other people think, is the sense that like the people whose opinions matter are the people who are also kind of in the arena with you. And so really reminding myself of that, like, that's what, if someone's just going to sit there and like criticize, but not, be trying to do anything else, like that criticism, valuable in the sense of like, I'm always appreciate feedback, but I'm not going to take it personally because like, you have no idea what the other like part of the arena looks like. So that's kind of typically how I tend to remind myself of like, okay, take it, learn from it. But I know what my world looks like, and like, that's all I can control.
Yeah, I love a bit of Brené Brown, and there's so much material there that's useful to so many people. So yeah, I get this.
Yeah.
And if there was one last thing that you wanted to share with people to help them understand the kind of the journey you've been on and what it's been like, or maybe another piece of advice that you'd like to kind of share, what would it be?
I think embrace creativity. That is something I've also been really working on in 2021, is by just doing something very simple and creative every day, like whether it's cooking or just like figuring out how to use different ingredients, or writing, or anything that's like requires a little bit of creativity, every day tends to kind of spark much more creativity for me, like at work. And it kind of is really helpful to just like, I think I always initially thought of creativity as like something people have or don't have. Now I think of it more as like a muscle that you have to stretch. And like, so I tend to kind of, it's important to like also bring that into my day, whatever, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be like, I'm not, this perfect painter or anything, but I really enjoy cooking and I enjoy figuring out stuff with new ingredients. So like, for me, that's been like really helpful, of just like, kind of just forces a different mindset. And that's really what I think is helpful in the middle of a pandemic, is just like trying to get any little creativity.
Cool. So I'm hearing creativity is actually something that kind of drives you, it kind of nurtures you, and actually giving yourself permission just to be in the moment and recognizing I don't have to be good at everything. I can just enjoy it for the sake of enjoying it.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. I think I always thought like creativity was about like creating the end product, but really it's about the mind, like the process of creativity that then I do bring that then into my teams or into, book or other things, but it's kind of it's okay to like have it just be something very simple.
Well, thank you so much. You and I could carry on talking for hours, I know.
Yeah.
But we
I
do
love
need
this.
to try and
Thank
wrap
you.
up at some point. So I really appreciate you sharing, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this. So thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you again soon, Kelsey.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.